We're live.
Hey, how are you? And welcome to Request, and thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Michael Kiernan. Will be bringing you insights from frontline experts and industry leaders and our communal journey to align real estate operations and technology. Today, we'll be discussing maintenance, and I'm grateful to have with me Resident Manager Ronson Forde, Bron Ibasha, and Central Maintenance Leader and Prop Tech Provider, Guillermo Salazar. Gentlemen, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us, Michael.
Oh, look, there's Ronson. And there he is now.
Hey, Ron.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
Bless.
So to get things started, Ronson, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became a resident manager?
Well, I've been started 22 years ago. I started as a porter, and I've worked my way from a porter to a maintenance tech, to supervisor to a resident manager. So for me, my journey, I just had a passion for it and the love for it, where I think has led to my success. I believe you can have all the skill in the world, but if you don't have the love and the compassion for what you're doing, you won't be successful at it. So, that's currently my, where I'm at with it. If any guys have any questions, I'm more than, happy to answer any questions.
I don't, but Ron, how about you? Tell us about your story and your journey.
Similar to Ronson, started as a handyman, and since I was the younger, pretty much handyman in the company, I had to actually cover for porter, concierge, doorman, as someone called out. So pretty much been on every role and experienced every role. And sure enough, when the opportunity came for a resident manager, definitely jumped on it. But yeah, started like 2007.
A question for both of you, since you both have seemed to have worked up through the ranks and done many jobs, and you now become resident managers. Was it what you expected it to be?
Great question. No, I would say no. It's like a two-sided coin. You're on one side of the coin, and your perspective is of, you're looking at guys on the other side of the coin. You don't understand the day-to-day operations and why they do what they do. And then when you get on the other side, is that all of those questions now are answered. So it's like full circle, coming full circle with the the job and the field that we're in.
Are you saying that prior to becoming a resident manager and maybe having more of a leadership role and more direct reports, are you saying that you realized what you didn't understand about your previous boss or bosses? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. You would wonder why they approach and say certain things, and when I was on the other side, I think when you don't have that much, when you're not entrusted with that type of responsibility, you're more carefree. You approach things from a more emotional perspective. But then when you enter the other side of the coin, you realize that now you have to put the emotions aside and be a manager, deal with things on a whole different level. Which is challenging, but I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world.
Great. Ron, what do you say?
I 100% agree with Ronson. So until you're actually on that position, you don't really, everything seems to be easier. My situation was a little different because I kind of got to experience a little bit. I had to cover for, when I was a handyman, for my previous RM for like about 8 months period when he was on a leave. So I got to like experience a little bit and know what really that is, and like know the responsibilities and everything else. But you definitely, until you are on that position, you don't really know, like, or it seems much easier for sure.
Absolutely.
So Ronson.
It seems much easier from the outside.
Yeah.
Why I'm listening, right?
Yeah, it does. Guillermo, I'm remiss in asking you a bit about your journey. So tell us about you.
I mean, what's interesting about, why I'm really grateful to have both you guys on the call, or everyone on the call, sorry. My background, gents, is I came in like doing field operations in industry for like 25 years. And so we started a prop tech company to solve a lot of the remote maintenance and centralized maintenance problems. And, I don't get to talk to too many resident managers. I talk to a lot of maintenance regional managers, asset managers, et cetera. So the opportunity to kind of listen to you guys and what it's like to be on the ground. I appreciate your insights. And so from my side of things, I'm always curious to hear a little bit around like the resident manager role, like, and how your role, because like they talk about defining a community, right, within the building. Like everybody stays for that sort of reasons, but it's harder and harder to manage that role. Like, and as a resident manager, like, what's your job scope feel like? What's it for everyone listening that's maybe not been a resident manager before? Is it what it sounds like? It's you're the utility player. You're doing a little bit of everything all the time.
Pretty much, yes. So you're like, literally, like you have to do maintenance sometimes. So, like depends also on the role. Some resident managers, they have like enough maintenance team and they don't have to do much themselves, but they're, there are few of my buildings that, like we only have one maintenance tech, and then after hours and evening, and you have to do yourself. So you have to know a little bit of everything. And obviously you have to deal with residents, you have to deal with staff.
Ron, maybe it'd be a good time actually a question that I had is if you could just let us know how many properties you cover, how many reports you have, direct and indirect, and their functions.
Sure. So yeah, like I oversee three buildings, a condo, which is a hybrid building, a full rental building, and then literally we just opened up a brand new building, and that's also fully rental. So on a condo, we have a little shorter staff, and that is, like we report directly to the board, to the manager, to pretty much my manager, regional manager, and then the board as well. And then the rentals, we have the general manager and then the regional manager. So technically we report to the general managers and then to the regionals as well.
Great. And Ronson, how about you? What's your portfolio look like?
Currently 10 buildings, 8 superintendents, 2 maintenance techs, 6 HMAs.
HMAs are porters.
Porters. Sorry.
Yeah.
Call them
it's
porters.
Okay. All right then.
Right. And as the previous gentleman said, you have to know, for me, because I started at the bottom and I worked my way up. I think what makes a great property manager is when you, and what makes the guys respect you is when you work your way from the bottom to the top, because now you know pretty much every guy's that's under you job and responsibility. So I think what it allows you to do, it allows you to empathize and connect with these guys on a better skill, because you know what they're going through, you know where they are, and now you are better to assist them with their day-to-day operations, which allows you to have a more efficient operation, So for me, it's all about communication with the guys and relating to the guys as a manager. So
Great, thanks. So a question for both of you, Ronson and Fran, and actually it'll apply to you too, Guillermo.
Sure, yeah.
And what overall for your entire organization is your primary objective?
I go first. Okay. It's
Yeah, sure.
it's to provide the best customer care for the residents, for the tenants, and to, you know, just build a stronger record, stronger reputation. And for me, it's all about the customer care, customer service, and that entitles, you know, your what you want to build your reputation on.
Thanks. Ron?
Yeah, same. Agree with Ron. So like customer service, obviously it's our number one priority. And then also like, I mean, keeping our budgets also, like in mind, and, like making sure we're working with those numbers and we're not going over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you guys have financial accountability.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much on my role. Yeah. Like we, we have a system where, like at the beginning of the year, we create RPOs pretty much for everything. And then obviously every single month we get invoices for like ordering supplies and all the contracts that we have regarding like anything in the building that we have, starting from boilers and all the way to like landscape and every contract that we have in the building. So we get those invoices, elevators, generators, all that.
Can you go a little bit deeper on that? As far as like financially, can you maybe break it down? And I think you were doing something like a request for proposal, right? Is what you're saying.
Correct.
Just break it down a little bit by what's your financial and procurement responsibility. If you have responsibility in not just adhering to the budget, but contributing to the formation of it, and then whether that's capital projects or special projects as well.
Sure. So pretty much, as I mentioned, like, we have the contracts and we have in place already for every thing that we have in the building. Those we kind of like know like ahead, like what the cost, obviously with a 2-3% increase, but we know those that what they're coming up. And then, like we have pretty much janitorial supply, plastic bags, like, and everything else, and we purchase outside of the contract. And then, like those invoices, they come to me, and I have to process them and I have to approve them. And what pretty much I do as well, now depends on which building, so I have to use a correct building code and also the GL account code. So we want to make sure that every item, for example, if it's a janitorial cleaning supply or light bulbs, I have to know now for which building is going and exactly for if it's for common areas or if it's for the apartments. So we have different budgets for common areas, and then we have a different budget for apartment turns, for example, for rentals, and then also like the interior of the apartment, including light bulbs and painting and all that stuff as we turn the apartments. And then like definitely we have the CapEx, the capital improvements. So we usually meet with our general manager, like starting from like June and going on all the way to like October, and walking the buildings together and just kind of like planning what we want to do for the upcoming year. So we create a list and then we present that list to the shareholders. And then, like obviously most of the time it gets approved, but it could be also like times when they want to wait for another year or so.
With the shareholders, you mean the boards?
The boards, yeah, like for the condo, and then for the rentals, like for the obviously.
Oh, right. The owners, yeah, it makes sense. Bronson, how about you? Can you shed some light on your responsibilities financially, procurement, budget, and if you have input into?
Well, in our system is more structured because we I'm on the residential side of the hospital portfolio, so we have more of our like as far as I goes, I'm responsible for like approving the POs as far as, you know, the if it's CapEx or if it's just regular and improvement works, repair work. So it comes to me, and then it goes to a different level of procurement for approval. And they will determine if it's capital expense or whatever budget that will come out of.
So you're saying you have, you're talking about the procurement process where you have
Yes.
responsibility for oversight of what's being purchased by your reports and yourself, and then that
Yes.
gets approval up the chain.
Up the ladder, yes.
Okay, but are you not responsible for adhering to the budget?
Absolutely. You know, I have a boss too, so I have to always report to him, especially if it's, let's say we're doing a capital repair. You know, I have to answer to him as to why I need $30,000 for a new HVAC unit. So based on the budget and based on the expense, it's you have to get certain approvals for depending on how big the budget is, the cost.
Understood. That makes sense. Now, do you have input? Does your boss ask you for input while you're, and it's like
Yes,
Ron was
because
saying, is like the capital planning for the next year?
yes, based on what we need, as let's say for the fiscal year, we would see what we can do this year, and if we can't, we roll it over into the next year's budget. And also, if we are doing repairs now, depends on let's say the job is 20,000, we will try to get multiple bidders to see who give us the best price. We won't just give it to one vendor, because you know they may try to just give us a ridiculous pricing. So we're very competitive in the market as far as getting multiple bids on jobs to see who gives us the best price.
Got you. Right. So what I'm hearing you saying is you've got responsibilities. Exactly what Fran was saying is you've got responsibility for procurement and getting your proposals, giving approval along the way in your procurement process. You also give input at whatever your budgeting period is for when you need capital expenditures. And I think just from having a little bit of insight, might be different than the two of yours. Is Ron, I think just very kind of traditional when you guys are doing capital projects, they truly are like, you're like, these are capital plans that we're going to put into the asset where, and just having insight, Ronson can be, have capital repairs if it goes above a certain dollar amount. So that's great to hear. So the bottom line is, I think maybe Guillermo, were you surprised that these guys had so much responsibility in financials?
Well, I think that, you know, like kind of like the role, like they're playing a lot of the role of a regional manager in many cases, right? I mean, and that's something I don't hear very often at the, I mean, again, I don't see too many resident managers. So it's a kind of a multi-role, right? I think what's exciting to hear is just like the financial accountability around it at the local level, right? Because like it's tough for you guys when someone's, you know, determining what kind of budget you have available to make customers happy. You know, if that's your number one job is to make the residents happy, and someone else is pulling the levers on what you can actually do and not do, that makes your job really impossible, and you just end up working harder.
I could see where it could be for sure, Guillermo, but I also know both these guys are very persuasive, and
Sure.
and I know their philosophies. Ron, you actually, I think one of the things that's getting lost in what you're telling the folks is when you're presenting to the stakeholders, you're presenting them to like, this is what we need. Here's the situation. You know, our gym equipment is coming near their end of life. We need to get this. I'm hearing from residents, we need this for our rental market. I'm hearing this from the condo owners. We need to get, you know, a refresh done in the lobby and such like that. So you're right, Guillermo. These guys go, you know, they're day to day making sure maintenance and repairs and sometimes an oversight some door staff. So they are chief cook and butler, but they need to be able to speak up and down. And I was really glad to hear you guys say, did my heart good to hear you guys both say the customer service, because like all roads lead to customer care, and that's where all the success comes from. So if we can get now, let's get into a bit more in the nitty gritty. Fran, take me through kind of a typical day of how you manage your maintenance requests.
So like pretty much, I mean, technically the requests, they usually just flow through the day. Like they keep coming in like, like all day long. But typically in the morning, like so I usually have huddles with every building pretty much, with all the teams for like a 15-20 minute, like up to a half an hour, just to like see what we have for the day. How many tickets we have. We go over with the maintenance team, and then, also like who's moving in and out, and like that kind of situation. But we always have a little huddle every morning, and we go over those tickets, and as they do come through the day, like pretty much I have to keep. So our protocol is that every work order, it must be completed in 24 hours. So it's really important for pretty much for me and for the maintenance team to keep an eye on everything. And like there's some, obviously, that there's a high priority. Like for example, if it's a leak and we have to jump right away, it doesn't matter what we're doing, we have to stop and jump into it. But every work order could be as a bulb replacement or a major leak. It has to be done in the 24 hours.
Okay, so that's a good KPI. Ronson, how about you? What's a typical day for you with dealing with maintenance?
Well, mine's a little different based on the multiple buildings, over a different area. So for us, our communication is done through the Yardi system, and every super, when he looks at, because I have oversight, so I look at all of the, I try to allow the supers to handle it on their own, but I'm just like oversight. So based on the politics as far as the building, because you have some residents who are higher on the food chain than some. So as far as the priority list, those that are let's say in the higher scale, the priority will more so go to them and their request first. So it's I mean, those are the ones with the biggest bark. So, you don't want those residents to say, "Hey, listen, I have this request hasn't been addressed for X set amount of time." So, for us, we will more try to identify those particular areas of need and address those urgently. And once we assess what we need to done, if it's something that we can do in-house, we take care of it, or we try to find the best solution. If we got to outsource it to a vendor, we will outsource it to a vendor. But the aim is to get it done as in a timely fashion to the best of our ability. So, but my one goal is try not to go back twice. So when we go to a job, we are trying to go there, get it done, and not have to go back twice.
How do you do that? I'm curious.
What, not go back twice?
Yeah, like what kind of stuff do you put in place so you don't go back twice?
Well, it's based on the need. It's based on the need. Let's say we have something as simple as a leak under a kitchen sink. The till pipe is leaking. Instead of patching it, you replace the whole thing.
Okay.
Because eventually, if one part goes bad, the other part goes bad. So then you don't want to replace one part, and then a week later they call and say, "Oh, it's leaking."
So does that mean do you have that part in supply, or do you go to HD and go pick it up? What do you do?
We have it in supply. We keep those parts in supply. Every building has, we assess. Every building is different, so every building has supplies that fit the need of that building. So
I just want to ask you to help me to qualify something with you. Now, you mentioned that if you have, a queue of work orders, you're going to prioritize somebody who's at a VIP level before other people. Is that all things being equal? For example, the work requests that are in the queue are all the kind of same. There's nothing that's emergent. There's nothing that somebody's been waiting days for. How much of a priority do your VIPs get? Understand, I mean, it exists where there's VIPs, but how do you?
it depends on the level of the request. If the request is something is simple, then let's say it will get done the same day. It will get done within a 24-hour span. Pretty much every work order has to be addressed within a 24-hour span, or even an 8-hour workday. However,
okay. So I guess we'll give Fran, if you could take this one now, if we kind of take it to the next level of, you'd mentioned, both of you guys had KPIs or 24-hour prior or 24-hour turnaround time expectation. Does your team follow a policy and procedure? And if they do you know how often those policy and procedures are reviewed and updated? And then the last part of that is, if they are you involved?
So yes, obviously, like our team take it very seriously because, I technically also have to stay on top of it. But so like our company shares actually the work order logs every month with the entire company. So every month we get an Excel sheet, like with every building, with the amount of work orders and also like how many were completed in 24 hours and how many were not. So, it gets a little bit serious. Like when you see, if you're not on top of your work orders and you see your building obviously failing all the time. So you don't, you want to make sure you're keeping up. So
yeah, I understand that as like that's a performance issue, right? You don't want to be the guy or people who are embarrassed. But what I'm asking is kind of like zooming even back, because like maintenance is one part of your policy and procedure. So I'm asking kind of, do you have a standard operating procedure for your rentals and condos, which I imagine they're pretty close?
Yeah. So like as I mentioned earlier, like definitely everything has to be done in 24 hours, unless we're waiting for a part. So, but it has to be visited. And then also like communication, it's like really important with, like as Ronson mentioned earlier, like you have probably in the morning, you might have like 10 or 20 work orders, and then you just want to like communicate with the residents and see when is pretty much their best time to visit, and, and where. And obviously then you choose which one is your priority and which one you're going first and second.
How much time does that take?
So are they documented? Sorry, Guillermo, go ahead.
How much time does that take? How much work is that?
So, I mean, depends on, obviously, every ticket has its own, it could be a leak under the sink, could be like a dishwasher situation. Like obviously when there are appliances, it does definitely take a little longer because you have to pull out the appliance and like it could be like just replacing like pretty much like a hose connection, but you still have to remove the entire dishwasher, for example, or washer, because we have every unit has washer and dryer as well. So, but versus like, let's say if it's a clock toilet or the sink is just dripping a lot of water from the faucet or it's dripping underneath, and so it's hard to like really like like say like, okay, it's going to take 10 minutes for a work order, because every work order has their own, I guess, like specification, and depend on how old is that pipe or that faucet or.
And okay, so you have policy and procedure globally for the whole, and they're documented, and you and your colleagues are expected to follow them. And do they?
Yes.
Are they followed?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Ronson, how about you? Do you guys have standard, you know, is there a policy and procedure for your residential maintenance team? And
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, with the Yardi system is a great tool, in my opinion, for resolving residents' complaints. For the simple fact that the tool that we use, the residents they can submit their work orders through the Yardi system, and what that does, it allows the residents to see when we give the residents updates. They see when we accept the work order, and then once we're completed, and we close out the work order, they're notified that the work order is completed.
I mean, that's great. And I appreciate that, like a little bit of more workflow. But my question is zooming out from work orders for a second. And do you guys have a standard operating policy and procedure that you're all meant to adhere to? You know, and it covers everything, right? It's like uniforms, times in, times out, vacation, how you guys are supposed to do your jobs, the KPIs like you're talking about. You talked about corporate procurement. Is there a document somewhere where you guys can access and is that what's used to train your staff?
Yes, I mean, we use Yardi pretty much similar to Ronson, as he said, but definitely in Yardi, you can go back and pull you can go back as far as you want and pull every work order and all the history, so you can see.
Okay, so we're talking. Let's get it. So you're both, we know, are using Yardi. I've mentioned it now. Is your property management system is Yardi, and Fran, what version of Yardi are you using? Meaning, are you going into logging in and going into like Yardi Voyage or Yardi One? I think you said.
Yes.
Going into that, so you have to go to your desktop and you go in. How do the work orders get from the residents into Yardi One?
So there are two ways to do it. So residents, they have an app and they can create the ticket themselves. But we have a lot of residents on their way out, let's say going to work, or they just make a call to the concierge front desk and say, hey, I would like to put a work request for XYZ, like, my washer dryer is not working. And then so the concierge, if we get through the concierge puts that request in and usually radios the team and says, hey, like apartment XYZ just created a ticket, like describing a little bit what it is, and then we.
So So you've got 2 points, right? You've got the human where the concierge are data entering it and using whatever your workflow is that they're specified to do. And then the other, what you said was an app. What's the app?
So it's the residential app that we have through the company, and every resident has on that app, they can do work request. So they have like few options on that app. So they can choose, to create work request. They can add a guest into their guest list, so they can pick up the keys at the desk. They can book amenities, and there are a few options on that app. So.
Oh, okay. So without saying the name of the company, so that's something that's proprietary that they built themselves?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. That's a big lift. How about you, Ronson? Talk about your workflow and what technology you use with Yardi.
It's pretty much similar to we use Yardi Voyager, and it's pretty much similar to what Fran says. The residents have access to a certain application of Yardi Voyager where they can make the request themselves, or they can also contact the office and also send an email stating that whatever request they have as well.
When you say call the office, is that a like a 365 24/7 manned location?
No, they will usually the line of communication is usually email. So when they email the office during working hours of operation, the office will then turn around and generate a work order
Mhm.
for the respect the resident who is having an issue. It's just a line of communication that um, works very efficiently because we're able to track everything. We're able to track the resident's request. We're able to track that we received the request, and then also we communicate back once we have finished with the request. We
Mhm.
always send a line of communication that the request has been completed. So, and what the benefits of that is that we always, let's say the resident comes like a month later, 6 months later, and say, well, this issue wasn't addressed. We can always go back and look at the history and say, well, listen, during this time, we have the records to prove that the issue that you are complaining about again as was addressed on this time.
Hmm. Understood. So just with, so you have similar, so I'm hearing that
Yeah.
residents can email a pool, right? Or administrative folks that can, and then they will transcribe that email and data enter it into Voyager. And it
Yes.
also sounded like, it sounded like maybe there's a resident portal that they go to and then they can enter in their own work requests.
Yes. We use a portal called Rent Cafe.
Okay.
And they
Got you. Okay. And that's great. That's great. So, do either of you guys have handheld apps? Do you guys use handhelds or the mobile apps that you use for maintenance?
So yeah, like pretty much so what my company is doing now. So we usually had URD. We have like the iPad as well for the team.
Mm-hmm.
So or they can download their app and they can get access through their phone to URD. And let's say like if they need to close the ticket or open, but we also have iPads. What my company is working now is actually so we used to use URD voucher and then we changed to URD one, which for maintenance purpose it's not as, I used to like URD voucher better than URD one because you have to technically you have to use like 3 different systems now, for example, to like book amenity space or book the elevator for a residence, and not everything can be through URD one. So now our company is working actually on bringing a new system, which, and then URD one again, maintenance purpose, we can't really take pictures. It doesn't allow you to take pictures if, let's say, you work under the sink, let's say on somebody's apartment, and it was leaking, so you can't take pictures before and after, for example. And we're working now with a new system, and it should be implemented very soon. And this is going to be linked to Yardi, so a resident still can use the same app and same everything, create a ticket, and then we will get notification via text, via email, however you want. And you can add as many people as you want, like meaning front desk, concierge, maintenance, yourself. You can do email, you can do text message, and you will get notification right away that, like a work order ticket was created. And now that pretty much will allow you to take a picture before and after, and you can take as many pictures as you want. So we, they have tried it in few buildings and they seem to like it. So it's going to be pretty much rolling out very soon.
Is that product, is it going to replace Yardi One? Are you guys getting a new property management system?
No, it will still pretty much, the front desk will still use Yardi One. The residents will still use the same app. It's just it will work pretty much together with Yardi. It will link to Yardi One. So like,
okay,
you will, and then So Yardi would technically not allow you to take pictures or put like too many comments, versus this new app will do that.
Okay, so it sounds like this new app that's coming in is going to replace two modes. I think you were saying that so it's going to be a front end to Yardi, but it's also going to be the replacing the tool that the residents have already, the proprietary app as well.
No, so their app would not be replaced at all.
Oh no.
No, their app will be same exactly. It's just a little easier, and like it would be better for us to get notified.
What's the name of the app? What's the name of the app again?
We're going with Visit now.
Okay.
It's Visit with 2 T's. Is that correct?
At the end, correct.
Yeah. So it's a front end that has I think what I'm hearing you say is it just gives you more functionality, but you're still using Yardi as your property management system.
Correct.
How and Ronson, so you talked about your system, and do you have handheld devices that you use?
Yes, we do. We have our mobile devices, and currently we're in the process of rolling out the iPads.
Okay.
That's going to come on board shortly. However, with the phones, we can, we take pictures when we go on a work request. We'll take pictures, and we load them up through the phone into the Yardi work order.
But are you using? I think you mentioned one time. Are you using Maintenance IQ? Is that
Yes.
the Yardi app? Okay.
Yes.
So you're using a different app. So Fron prior to actually still is right now using Voyager, and they have to data enter manually everything. And I imagine, and you're using Maintenance IQ, which gives the PM at the property management system is still Yardi, and you're using Maintenance IQ, which is the added module, which gives you sounds like a lot of the functionality that Fron was looking for, being able to take images and such.
I'm curious.
Yeah.
So images. I mean, what's the impact of not having images? Like, is it too long, too slow, more than one trip? Like, what are you guys trying to solve by having the images there? And then I'm also curious, what does the after images solve?
We just documentation. Documentation for me is all about documentation, and you don't want that to. Well, for us, it's all about, as Michael mentioned earlier, the system, the structure, and that's something that we demand. We demand when our techs or supers go into apartments that they document pretty much the work at hand, just for future records and our own records, to have them, to protect the worker, to protect the resident, to protect everyone involved in whatever request that we are going into.
And do you have
do you have the pictures?
Do you have the pictures before you send the crew? Like when you have your morning meeting and you meet all your supers, do you have the pictures then?
Some residents, they will send pictures.
Okay.
Some residents. However, it's best for us when we enter this, because in hindsight we're entering residents' homes.
Yeah.
So so we have to be utmost professional with utmost respect, and we also have to protect our own employees. So because some residents will say, "Oh, this wasn't done. Oh, this wasn't broken." However, when you go in there and you take the necessary pictures, they can't come back and say after the fact that we didn't do this or we didn't do that, because now we have the proof that, listen, here's the proof.
Doesn't happen
also,
often.
it's a little easy. I'll say it's also a little easier, so what your maintenance are doing really. You're making sure that they're, replacing what they said they did. Because, also a maintenance guy can be, I did everything, but, and then you get a call the next day from the resident saying, I'm dealing with the same leak. So if you have pictures, exactly what was.
Well, it's interesting because you guys aren't really, you wouldn't be defined a scattered site, right? This is high density stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And you're still keeping track of these things. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the same problem as scattered site has, right? Where they want proof, they want to see the problem, they want before and afters. In California, it's the law now for rental deposits. You have to have before and after, well, April 1st. You have to have before and afters, you know?
So
Okay.
with this new system that we're trying to implement, what we like the most and what is great about is also it kind of like shows you like where you're spending the most time. So it kind of like highlights, like for example, because you obviously gonna have like a lot of tickets through the day or through the week or a month, and then it will kind of like separate.
Ooh,
Oh, we lost him.
he'll be back.
Bronson, tag in. What do you have to say?
Yeah.
I was so deep into his thoughts,
Yeah.
because I'm very curious about his system and what he does. I find it very intriguing for just
Well,
hearing another property manager,
it is, and it's
tell me
also
about his thing.
you both have the same baseline property management software.
Yeah,
and that you're both
I'm
using.
also curious, like, to hear like who made who brought up the software? Like I'm curious to find out who initiated the change. Was it Fran? Was it the ownership? Like, where did someone say we got to fix this problem?
So that's actually a good kind of question we could segue. But I just wanted before. Oh man, we lost. Hopefully, it'll tap back in.
Yeah.
Question then, Ronson, continuing, because you a couple of things come to mind. Is one, it sounds like you're kind of basing evidence for people who don't believe that you're doing work, and that's sad to me. Moreover, you were talking about when you had repeat work orders, you can point to the records. Can't you also use that same kind of thing to maybe look for preventive or predictive maintenance, meaning that, hey, we keep having the same issue in this stack. It's kind of indicative that there's something else that's going on in our system, and maybe we should be going and looking at the main trap or something else to solve the problem.
Absolutely, and that's and you hit the nail on the head, because like I said, I take pride. Our guys take pride in not going back to the same work request twice. However, if we get the same request twice, now what we're going to do? We're going to broaden the scope of the bigger picture. Is there a bigger issue? Is there something else that's causing this issue?
Fran's back, ladies and gentlemen.
The battery went low. We didn't even realize.
Fran, Ronson almost fell over. He was like on the edge of the seat listening to you. It's like a cliffhanger. Did you want to finish what you were saying?
Yeah. So now if we had if like I just said, to bring Fran up to speed, if we have to go back to a job for a second time, now we got to broaden the scope. We got to see what's the issue, what's the bigger issue, what's causing this issue to occur again.
Mm-hmm.
So
can we just, for kind of, because we're going to run short on time, I just want to get to a few kind of points that we kind of talked about. Was who makes the selection for any kind of technology that you get? Is it done from somebody else outside of your group? Do you have a group of resident managers? How are the tools that you need in technology selected?
So in my company, pretty much we, like if something, so we usually meet quarterly with our engineering team, and like if something is not working, or like we can always share or come up with new ideas or new things that can work. As far as making a decision, like our pretty much engineering team and our IT team, and we'll I guess make a decision. Usually they roll it out to like 2 or 3 properties just to test it out and see how it works.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's what's happening with Visit, really. So they like they have tested in like about 3 locations for like one of them for like about 9 months, the rest like about 6-7 months. and they're all happy. And then now they're rolling through like on the rest of them.
So you mentioned the engineer. So does the engineer pick the product, and do you know the why? For example, you said that you brainstorm at these quarterly meetings. Are you guys bringing up pain points that, yeah, we're having a really difficult time with our existing maintenance, app or process, I should say, in case you
like, yeah, what happened that you guys decided to go for change?
So I mean, yeah, like so we've been using Visit for a little while for back of the house. So in our company, like we have to do daily logs every single day. So we used to have a different company years ago, and that like we changed to Visit. I'll say 2 or 3 years ago now, and it seems to work better, easier, and so yeah, like we log every equipment or every mechanical back of the house, like literally, like the water pressure, for example, the like including boilers, including elevators, AC system, like gauges, like all that, like what like how much, like what's the water pressure, what's the temperature, all that. We have to log that all every day. So then like then they have tried out the Visit, upgraded, and then we're able to work with Yardi. So and then they decided to, I guess, like
where were we capturing all of that data, all those data points? Where were we capturing that? Was that in Yardi? Did you have to manually write it down and then data enter it? Where'd you capture it?
So like like we technically have iPads now for Visit, and we were logging on iPad every day. So like every morning, myself and the maintenance tech would get an email with all the open tickets for Visit, and then we open Visit. Like usually have to be like a precise time. Like let's say if you do it every day at 10 a.m., you have to keep doing, let's say, at 10 a.m. every single day. Otherwise, like,
yeah,
and then that's
I'm
where
sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but just to kind of clarify, as what I'm asking is, you were mentioning where you're going through, and it sounds like you probably don't have a building management or building management system in house. So you were mentioning you were capturing, water pressure and water temperature and such like that. Where were you recording that?
Through Visit, pretty much through the.
Okay,
Visit.
So you're expanding. So you're already using Visit and you're expanding a new module.
Correct.
Okay.
So yeah, we were using Visit for like 2 or 3 years now for the back of the house.
Okay.
So now Visit came up and said that they can
a new module. Okay.
Work with Yardi, and then like just expanding now. So like, and like on Visit we can literally create now all the permits as well. So like like if you have a DEP permit, or you have the elevator permits, or like HVAC permit and generator permit, and obviously those they expire. So you put everything on Visit, and they will notify you like a 30-day prior that, hey, XYZ permit is about to expire, just so you keep a track.
That's cool. That's great. So I was imagining something else. So I'm really glad to hear that it's all being captured, the data digitally. Before, when you were offline, Ronson said that he wanted to hang out and learn all about that product. So you guys can do that. Ronson, I want to ask you guys a really kind of thought-provoking here, right? You mentioned, Fran, that you have quarterly meetings with your engineering team. And Ronson, do you have quarterly meetings, or maybe even more frequently, with your maintenance leadership team?
Absolutely, we have quarterly meetings and meetings as needed. If there's something that needs to be addressed to the whole portfolio, we call emergency meetings to address those issues or information, or it's just being efficient at communicating. So let's say we want to roll out iPads. We won't wait until the quarterly meeting comes up to address them. We will have smaller setting meetings to say, look, this is what we're rolling out right now. So it's just being efficient in communicating instead of having to say, okay, because sometimes you can't really script, you know, the operations as you has it structured. Sometimes you just have to say, okay, well, we have to take care of this right now. You may have a
understood. Understood. What I wanted to get at before we run out of time is, Ronson, did you say somebody outside of your group makes determinations as to, whether picking your property management system or whatever technology?
Yes.
Is that selected by somebody outside or within your group, but somebody that's not directly working with you?
Yes, but we also have the leeway to have input. Guys, you have to be open-minded and allow guys to bring suggestions to the table that would benefit the portfolio.
That's true. And how do you do that? What's the mechanism for that?
Well, I mean, networking with other entities, other departments, vendors, and just keeping your ear to the market of things that work, like Fran. So you have relationships pretty much with other property managers. Say, hey, Fran, what system are you using over there? And he would communicate with me. Hey, well, we're using Yardi. We're using this. So now I can say, well, okay, I can take this to my management team and be like, listen, let's look into this and see if we can utilize this system as well.
So we're going to run short on time, so I do apologize. So what I wanted to ask is, what do you guys think would be how it would be received if instead of if you guys had a direct line of communication with the IT team? So Ron, instead of quarterly meetings with IT and a resident management group where you guys can express your pain points and say, this is what we're going on, and the IT or the tech group can hear them. What do you think of that? And same question for Ronson. We got like 30 seconds, guys, so make it good.
Ronson, go ahead.
Anything to improve customer service is always a plus.
Do you think it would be well received by your bosses?
If it improves efficiency of the customer service, yes.
Okay. I want to put this up while we're going. So Fran, so keep talking. I just want to put this up.
So I mean, yeah, definitely. Like if you have a valid point, and obviously, like your bosses will definitely listen.
But do you think it's a good idea to have a direct line of communication with the tech team so that they understand what you're doing and you understand the tools that they're looking at?
100%.
So
yeah,
absolutely.
That's what I was suggesting. Okay, so gentlemen, thank you for joining me on my premiere episode. It was fun. I really appreciate it. I'm very grateful. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on either LinkedIn Live or my YouTube channel. So Ronson, Fran, and Guillermo, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Any parting thoughts, gentlemen? Fran, any last minute?
No, thank you for having us.
It was great.
Yeah, I appreciate you having us. Well, this is outstanding. Did a good job. Great first run.
Thanks.
Yeah, congratulations.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michael.
Take care.
Take care, Michael. Bye-bye.
Well done.